Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and thank you so much for tuning in with me today. So in today's video, I'm gonna be finally doing an eyeshadow palette ranking. I think it's long overdue because I have accumulated 20 eyeshadow palettes that were released in 2024, and I'm now ready to share my opinions with you guys because it will take me a little bit of time to form a solid opinion on eyeshadow palettes. You know, I do want to create multiple looks with the palette, and usually I don't like to wait that long to actually film an eyeshadow palette ranking video with that many palettes because I've already have another pile of palettes sitting right there, you know, that I could do a brand new video with. I'm going to be trying to do this a little bit more frequently and not wait that long before I'm filming these ranking videos. Also, just please be reminded that this video is solely based upon my experiences with the palettes, my personal preferences when it comes to color story, when it comes to the formulas, you know. If you do like a palette that I did rank lower, look, I love it for you. Just don't take this video too serious. This should be fun after all. And please do let me know in the comment section down below if you have tried out any of the palettes or what was your favorite palette of this year thus far. I would be really curious to know. And if you do enjoy this video, please don't forget to give it a like, subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to ring the bell in order to get notified about my upcoming videos. Also, in case you're new to my channel, all of the palettes that I'm featuring in today's video, I actually have featured them before on my channel, mainly as short videos. Usually I do try to create multiple looks, so just head over to my YouTube Shorts tab. Some of them I actually have featured in longer video formats, and if that's the case, I'm gonna be linking those videos in my description box as well, alongside with some links and some discount codes as per usual. Also, if you do want to know what I'm wearing today on my face, I'm going to do my best and just link all of the products in that description box down below. So thank you so much for checking that description box out. But alright, you guys, I don't want to hold you up with too long of an intro, so I would say let's start at the bottom and then just like work ourselves slowly up to the top. But I also just want to say that none of these palettes are of very poor quality. There is not a mega flop in today's video. I feel like my ranking this time around was really just based on my preferences, like really my personal preferences, what I just kind of vibe with the most. And yeah, it's just really refreshing to see that eyeshadow palettes, the quality of eyeshadow palettes in general, has come such a long way. But one palette has to go last. I will say it was a little bit more difficult to actually rank the bottom part of my ranking this time. I really kind of struggled. I was constantly moving around palettes, but you know, I just have to make a decision at the end of the day. So let's just start off with my least favorite palette of 2024. So number 20 goes to the Master Mattes, the Neutrals eyeshadow palette by Makeup by Mario. This wasn't a major disaster of a palette, not at all, by no means. However, you know, it just falls a little bit flat in comparison to all of the other palettes that are about to follow. So I actually did purchase this palette for my birthday in March, so I do remember when it was actually released. And this palette really just spoke to me because I do like neutrals, believe it or not. I actually do enjoy a good neutral palette, and thus far none of his palettes really spoke to me, but this one, for some whatever reason, I just felt the vibe with this one. So I did purchase this myself, and like all the other palettes, I all picked them up myself. But there are just some nitpicky things about this that just made it also rank lower. But let's just have a look inside. I'm gonna always show you close-ups and swatches of all of the palettes. So this palette has 12 shades. All of them are matte tones. They are all nude shades with a neutral undertone, apart from the addition of this deeper gray shade in here. I really challenged myself to get some use out of this palette and really see if I would want to include it more into my daily makeup routine, especially for those days where I don't have the time to create a full-blown like eye look. If I have to be somewhere really quick and, you know, I'm in a rush, I thought to myself, you know what, let's just put this eyeshadow palette onto the test. So I kept on reaching for this, especially in those situations. Now the thing is, this wasn't really that quick. Like, because of this formula is quite buildable and lacks a little bit in pigmentation, if you ask me. So when I was in a rush, it wasn't necessarily the quickest because I kind of had to build up some of these shades on my lids. Although this does have a lot of variety when it comes to the neutral tones in here, on my eyes, it just kind of all pulls the same. Also, the fact that this has so much kickback. This is such a messy palette. It gets so dirty. And I don't know, I just thought this would be a little bit more creamy because when you touch them, they really feel like silk. Like they feel like velvet, like so smooth. But when you dip your brush into these, it's just like a mess. It's really, really messy. And I mean, you can see my mirror is looking so messy. And I've got so many fingerprints on this mirror just due to the fact that this palette just does not open up completely. It just stops right here. And the problem with this also is the fact that this retails for $55. So it's quite an expensive palette. And I don't think this is worth $55. Because if you are charging $55 for an all matte eyeshadow palette, I have high expectations, okay? I have really, really high expectations. And although this did blend out nicely, I had to build it up. It took me longer than I expected. And at the end of the day, my looks just kind of looked a little bit boring. Okay, so I wish this could have been a little bit different. And this packaging, also the packaging for $55, just not the best. It looks so cheap, and that's why I did rank this last. It's not like a major flop, but all in all, quite underwhelming in comparison to what is up next. All right, so let's actually move on to number 19, and number 19 is gonna go to Titanium Foxes. This is their Poppy Storm eyeshadow palette. Now, Titanium Foxes is actually an indie brand from France, and this was their very first palette that they ever came out with. I'm gonna tell you, it's actually a really lovely palette, but yeah, there are some things that I don't like 100% about it. But let's have a look inside at the color story. So this palette comes with 15 shades in total. 9 of them are matte shades, and we also have 2 multi-chromes and 6 very beautiful foiled sparkly shimmer shades. Now this color story is very vibrant, yet it's deep and dark and grungy. In general, this is pretty much a warm tone color story with a little bit of a gray shade with a pop of like blue in here. But overall, I feel like this is a pretty warm color story, which does make sense, you know, because this color story is definitely inspired by poppy flowers and I would say stormy weather. The reason why I ranked this a little bit lower is the fact that I'm not the biggest fan of this matte formula. The shimmers and the multichromes, unbelievably pretty. I think you saw that in the swatches. They are so nice. Just the mattes, I feel like the mattes are very pigmented, but they are a little bit more on the drier side. The only shade that I will say is a little bit more creamier is this shade right here, this very poppin' red shade. And I've created one of the most beautiful red looks with this palette, like ever. Such a pretty look. I'd say check that one out over on my YouTube Shorts tab, because if you were ever looking for a good red look, that's a good one. But for the other looks, I was struggling a little bit, especially with the matte shades. This yellow shade disappointed me a little bit because it did not really show up. And this one also did not really show up. I mean, you can use this to like lighten up the shades, but it was very difficult to make them a little bit lighter just due to the fact that they just had so much color payoff straight away. Like these are intense, but they are also a little bit more difficult to blend out. I felt like this was in particular very patchy. This gray, again, not my favorite gray in the world. The blue, and this shade right here, this kind of like swampy green, this is just personally not my thing, because olive tones and like these swampy, murky green shades don't look very flattering on me. The mattes in general just gave me a little bit of a harder time. I wish these could be a little bit more creamy and silky to the touch. These are very dry, a little bit difficult to blend them out. I mean, I did create some nice looks with it, but it was definitely more of a challenging process for me. I do love the shimmer formula though. Just the mattes for me were a little bit of a letdown. But this was their very first release. So, I think there was like some room for improvement. And I also just feel like this color story was a little bit more challenging for my personal taste and my preferences. Nonetheless, it's a beautiful palette and I love the theming. So let's move on to the next spot. And this was a palette that I was so excited about. But when I got it, I just ended up not loving it as much as I thought I would. So number 18 goes to ColourPop Cosmetics, and this is the Twilight eyeshadow palette. Oh my gosh, I feel like this palette kind of broke the internet. This was kind of crazy. People got so heated over this eyeshadow palette because when this was released, it immediately sold out. And I actually purchased this on the release date. I got mine. I had no issue with checking out, but apparently there were a lot of people that were very disappointed that they did not get a hold of this palette on the day when it was released. That just goes to show how many Twilight fans there are. Now listen, I'm not the biggest Twilight fan. I have a lot of friends that are. Here it is. I still have it in the sleeve. I don't know why I kept the sleeve. Usually I don't do that, but I think I kind of love like this entire like artwork. I really kind of enjoy the whole concept of this palette, but I will tell you, this palette is like the movies. You go in with a lot of expectations and you come out disappointed. So let's have a look inside. So this palette has 15 shades in total, 6 matte shades, 4 shimmer shades, 1 duochrome, 1 matte sparkler / sequin shade, and then 3 glittery gels. Now this color story was obviously inspired by the whole color grading of the very first movie in the franchise. I think they did an amazing job with the color story. I honestly love a good cool tone palette. I think when you're looking at this is very beautiful. And for the color story in and of itself, I would give it like a 10 out of 10. I feel like this palette is not the best quality that ColourPop has ever done. For example, I do have a ColourPop eyeshadow palette that is coming up much higher in the ranking just due to the fact that the quality is a little bit better. Now, I really do love this color story. I don't know how many times I can say that, but this color story really spoke to me. When I saw this, I thought they did an amazing job with the color story. But, the mattes here are a little bit more on the ashier side, and usually I don't mind that, but I felt like it took a long time to actually blend them out and make them look like cohesive and smooth. I did create like some beautiful looks with this palette, it's not like a complete disaster. The main problem for me though is the fact that they did include 3 of these glittery gels, and I don't like that formula. I don't love it. This one, and this one. And these are kind of like shades that I was very excited about. And I was so bummed out when I put them on my lids. I felt like, oh no, I don't like this whatsoever. I felt like the glitter particles that they have used in this are just scratchy. They are a little bit too chunky, and I don't love that. I would not be mad if they would never ever do this formula ever again. If there would have been one shade like that, I would have kind of like looked over that fact, okay? But there are 3. And I mean, I get the whole glitter thing with like Edward Cullen having this glitter effect to him. Just put one shade, like this Edward shade. And still, I feel like I would have been so much happier if this would have been an amazing shimmer formula. Also, the black shade is like one of these matte sparkling like sequin shades that I don't necessarily love by ColourPop. If this would have been top-notch quality, this would have been very much high up because honestly, I like looking at this. I love the color story, but yeah, execution wasn't really there. And also, I love this packaging. It's so pretty. Really nice work on the artwork and the whole concept and the whole theming. But yeah, not my favorite ColourPop palette. All right, so let's move on to the next palette. So number 17 goes to Cosmic Brushes, and this is the Winter Wonderland eyeshadow palette. I do adore Cosmic Brushes, or are they called Cosmic Beauty yet? I don't know. Their website still says Cosmic Brushes. So I'm just gonna call them Cosmic Brushes because I'm gonna forget to call them Cosmic Beauty, okay? I love a lot of their eyeshadow palettes. I love their quality, and I especially adore their price point, but I also feel like this palette was a little bit more expensive. They're what we were used to. And some people may say, okay, there are some special shades in this palette. Well, there were also some special shades in that Muse palette. This palette was released, I think, at the end of 2023. I only started using this in January of this year. I will say I like the theming, I like the concept, I like the packaging. Really, really pretty and stunning. So let's actually have a look inside. This palette comes with 20 shades in total. 6 out of them are shimmers, and there are also 2 multi-chrome shades with beautiful shifts. This color story is very much inspired by frosty winter shades. We have a lot of purple, some pastel-y sort of like lilac-y shades. We also have some teal shades and some blue shades in here. This is poppin'. This is very vibrant. It's very, very pretty. And again, I do like the gradient here going from very light to very deep. I think they've done a great job when it comes to the mattes. The only reason why I did rank this, maybe to your surprise, a little bit lower is due to the fact that I feel like the shimmers that are a little bit deeper, and there are quite a few in here, I think there are 3 shimmers that I just don't love the formula. But I felt like this shade right here, and this shade right here, and especially this purple right here, they were so hard to pick up. They feel very, very sticky. And usually I pick them up with my fingers. Well, they kind of stuck to my finger, but they would not come off of my finger. So I had a very hard time dispersing them onto my eye, and making that look smooth was very, very difficult. I did not have an issue with these lighter shades. And also the multi-chromes, this one right here, especially this one is so beautiful, buttery smooth, really, really stunning. This one is a little bit too deep for me, this multi-chrome right here, maybe not my favorite one in the world. This is like one of these teals that kind of shifts to a purple, and it's very, very deep, so I don't necessarily love that. And for this reason, I just tend to not reach for this that much. And also, I never really had that issue with any of the other palettes that I have by them. So it's exclusively for this palette right here, but I can just see myself loving these new releases so much more. So I'm so excited, and I will definitely create some looks with them once they have arrived. All right, so let's move on to number 16 in the ranking, and number 16 is gonna go to Kama Cosmetics. This is the Skulls and Roses eyeshadow palette. So this was also the very first time that Kama Cosmetics, which is actually a UK-based indie brand, came out with an eyeshadow palette. And this was their Valentine's Day release. I mean, this is a very solid first launch for this brand. And it's actually a really, really pretty eyeshadow palette. So let's have a look inside. So this palette comes with 16 shades. It has 8 mattes and also 8 special shades. So an equal ratio of matte shades versus shimmer shades. This color story really does combine some warm neutrals with these burgundy, reddish, berry tones. This is a really, really good quality eyeshadow palette. I do love the mattes in this. The mattes are spectacular. The only thing that I did not love 100% about this eyeshadow palette is that I feel like the selection of the special shades, the shimmer shades, they all tend to go very pink. Apart from this is actually a shade that I love, Sorcery. It's just such a pretty, pretty shade, and I did create such a beautiful eye look with this shade in particular. But this shade right here, this shade right here, this shade right here, and this shade right here, all of them kind of have like a little bit more of a pinkier undertone to them, or like a gold flip to them. The inclusion of all of these pinks, you know, you don't really have a proper pink in this palette to combine them with. You've got this, which is a little bit more of a rosier sort of burgundy shade, but I don't necessarily love red and pink together, and I don't necessarily love like these like more warm toned neutrals in combination with pink. I don't like brown and pink together. This shade Dazzle that I was really looking forward to, because I wanted to create a look, and I actually did create a look with this, where I did combine these neutral warm toned shades with this. But this unfortunately is not my favorite formula. This almost felt like a sharp glitter gel, like the ones from the ColourPop palette, okay? So I did not really love that. This was too chunky for me. I wish this could have been a little bit more like this formula right here. I think this formula is spectacular. Like, I could feel the glitter particles on my eyelids, and I don't really love that. So it made it a little bit more difficult for me personally to find some color combinations that I was pleased with. They recently have come out with a new palette, and it's called Bougie Boudoir, and I actually did pick that one up. It's going to be a limited edition though, but I feel like that color story is going to be so much more up my alley, and I cannot wait to play around and see if the formula is the same as this one, and I cannot wait to play around with these mattes again. The mattes are fantastic. This really just boiled down to like color preferences. All right, so let's move on to number 15 in the ranking. So number 15 is gonna go to the Spring Dragon eyeshadow palette by Odin's Eye, and this was in collaboration with Judy. So for the springtime, Odin's Eye did release an entire collection, 3 different eyeshadow palettes with 3 different content creators, and I was really keen on trying those out. I think they looked really pretty. So this is the one that Judy did create, and honestly, I do enjoy this palette. There was not much wrong with this palette, maybe one thing, one minor nitpicky thing. So let's have a look inside. So this palette comes with 12 shades in total. There are 7 matte shades and 5 shimmer shades. So the color story here is very spring-like. This is actually a very nice addition to the Odin's Eye line, because thus far they did not really have an all pastel eyeshadow palette, and Judy did create this for them. So I did rank this eyeshadow palette in my pastel eyeshadow palette ranking quite high up, because compared to all of the pastel eyeshadow palettes that I do have, I actually do like this one. It's a little bit smaller, it's a little bit more curated, has some really pretty tones in here. The only thing that I don't love 100% about this is this deeper shade. I think this deeper shade does not really work that well with all of these other shades in here, and it just did not really look that nice. I felt like this was just a little bit patchy and was a little bit harder to work with. Otherwise, the formula is really pretty. I did create some beautiful pastel, all pastel eyeshadow looks with this palette. But yeah, in comparison to all of the other eyeshadow palettes, I had to rank this somehow. But just keep in mind, this is not bad quality whatsoever. I think it's cute and pretty, and I think Judy did a great job, and she definitely did add something to the Odin's Eye line that was not there yet. So congrats to her on this palette. I think it's very nice. And let's just stay with Odin's Eye and this collection, because I've got 2 more eyeshadow palettes from this collection to rank, and the next one is also from this collection. So this is the Mighty Monster eyeshadow palette in collaboration with Annette's Makeup Corner. So this is the palette that Annette did create. I'm actually a huge fan of Annette. I'm subscribed to her channel, and I absolutely love the way that she does eyeshadow looks. So I was really keen on trying this out. Looks like such a fun palette. So let's open this one up. So again, this comes with 12 shades. This also has 7 mattes and 5 shimmers, but this one has different textures. Some duochromes, a very intense metallic shade, and also a multi-chrome shade. I think this makes for an amazing summer themed eyeshadow palette. And maybe I was not really ready for this color story during the springtime, but I did create some very beautiful looks with this palette. I actually absolutely love this shade right here. It's called Glow Vortex. This is the multi-chrome in here. It's very stunning, very beautiful. This is that very intense metallic sort of shade. It's very chunky, it's very putty. It's very different from what I'm used to by Odin's Eye. One of my main problems though with this palette, why I did not rank this higher up, because I could have easily ranked this one higher up, is just due to the fact that all of these are pretty mid-toned. So the ratio going from very light to very deep is not quite there. A little bit too on the mid-toned side for me overall. But otherwise, it's a fun color story. This is where it lands, but it's nonetheless a very good quality palette, and I did thoroughly enjoy this. So let's move on to the next one. And number 13 is gonna go to Blend Bunny Cosmetics. This is their Machina eyeshadow palette. Blend Bunny Cosmetics definitely has some of my all-time favorite eyeshadow palettes in the world. They definitely have one of my favorite matte formulas, and I just love most of their eyeshadow palettes. This one though, it's okay. It's definitely more of like a color story sort of preference thing than it is a quality sort of issue with the ranking. I would have ranked this much higher if the colors would have been a little bit different, but I love the packaging. This packaging is so pretty. Oh, very beautiful, the artwork on here. It is described as a romantic sci-fi eyeshadow palette. So let's have a look inside. This does come with 24 shades. 18 are mattes. They are arranged in a gradient, a vertical gradient. And there's also 6 shimmer shades. Out of these 6, 2 of them have a duochrome shift. Now this color story combines purple, blue, some peachy reddish shades with some pinks, with some olive greens, and we also have a white and a gray and a black. Like, there is just a lot going on with this palette. I will say I did create some very, very beautiful looks with this. This shimmer cyborg is incredible. This is like unlike anything I have in my entire collection. It is so beautiful. I also really do adore this shade Sci-Fi. I mean, you can get me with a yellow shimmer, especially if it has a little bit of a green shift to it. It is absolutely stunning. And these other shimmer shades are also very pretty. I just kind of feel like this one and this one maybe a little bit too similar, right? But then the other thing is this color story in general, it is a little bit all over the place. And I think what throws me off the most in here are these green shades. I don't like these olive, like murky, swampy green shades. They're just gonna look like dirt on my eyes. And these 2 shades they just take me out. I wish they could have included like a neon green, because when I think about sci-fi, I definitely do imagine like a matrix green, like a neon green, something like that. Apart from me not liking these olivey shades, I also don't really love this hot pink. I'm never a fan of a hot pink. Just one of my least favorite colors to have in an eyeshadow palette. Although I did create some very, very stunning looks, just a little bit harder for me to love this one 100%. But it's beautiful nonetheless, you know. And we are working ourselves up in the ranking, okay? So it's not bad quality, it's just a me preference here. All right, so let's move on to number 12. And number 12 is gonna go to a little bit of a newer palette in my collection. And this is gonna go to Gloss Gods, and this is the Let's Get Nude palette. So this was also a limited edition release by Gloss Gods. I don't know why this was limited edition though, because I feel like a lot of people would love the color story. And Gloss Gods is a brand from Sweden, and they just have amazing eyeshadows. Like, the formula is incredible. I really have been enjoying their palettes. Like, I do have 4 by now, like including this one. So let's have a look inside at this color story. So this palette comes with 12 shades in total. 5 of them are matte shades, 7 out of them are shimmer shades, and out of these 7, 1 of them is a multi-chrome. We have 2 duochromes, and the rest are intense metallic shimmers. Now this color story really does combine some toasty, sort of honey, warm toned matte shades, and then we have these beautiful, more like bronzy, rosy shimmer shades in here. It's a very, very stunning color story in general. Now there are a couple of things about this palette that I don't enjoy 100%, I'm gonna be honest with you, but overall I really do love this palette. I honestly feel like that this shade right here and this shade right here, they do pull a little bit too similar on my eyes. And I also really don't like this shade right here. It's called Nude or Never. This is very, very deep, and it has a different formula than these other shimmer shades. I feel like this has more of a satin formula, and it's just less reflective, it's less sparkly, and it's just not as nice. And I don't, in general, adore like very deep shimmer shades. It's not my cup of tea. Otherwise, this is a beautiful palette. I love this shade right here. I love this shade right here. And the special shade right here, this multi-chrome, which is called Golden Hour. In the beginning, I thought this would have a little bit more of a lilac-y blue undertone to it. When this goes onto my eye though, it pulls very, very orange golden. It looks a little bit different when you see it in the pan. Nonetheless, I think it works really, really well. And for some of you, this might be good news that this does not pull lilac or blue, because also that would have been a little bit weird. But in general, I think it's very beautiful. I think it's a very pretty high quality eyeshadow palette, and I wish this would not be limited edition, to be honest with you, because I can see a lot of people loving this. All right, so let's move on to my number 11 in the ranking. And number 11 is going to go to Nomad Cosmetics, and this is the Ireland Wild Atlantic Way eyeshadow palette. So Nomad Cosmetics, another brand that I love to feature on my channel. I really do like their formula, and I really wanted to have this. The packaging, oh, it's like velour. It's so soft to the touch. I really love the packaging. Nomad Cosmetics is always doing like travel and destination inspired eyeshadow palettes, and this time around, you know, they were inspired by Ireland. Let's open this eyeshadow palette up. So this comes with 18 shades in total. This has 11 mattes and 7 buttery smooth sparkly shimmer shades. So there is a lot of green in this palette, obviously. We also have some teal shades, a little bit of blue, some pop of like orangey bronzy shades, and also some golden shades. These mattes are incredible. I had such an amazing time with this palette. I created some beautiful looks, and I also challenged myself to actually create a look that was not green at all. Because you can definitely go a different way with this palette. It's a little bit harder, but you can definitely manage to do so, okay? But in general, I think this is very beautiful. It's a very well curated eyeshadow palette. The only reason why I did not rank this one higher up is it's a little bit repetitive. Like, I feel like this shade right here and this shade right here, although they might look different in the pan, on my eyes they almost pull the same. So if this could have been something else, I would have loved this a little bit more. Another thing is the fact that, and this is like one of my biggest critiques about this palette, the fact that this only has one true green shimmer shade and it has a golden shift to it. This one right here, this one almost pulls teal. But the shimmer shades, where are my shimmer shades? Where are the beautiful shimmer shades? They're a little bit lacking, and I feel like, honestly, we did not need this gold and this gold. Like, this pulls a little bit warmer, a little bit more orangey than this one is just a true sort of golden shade. But I wish one of those shades would be like a lime green, sort of iridescent, almost like shimmer shade. That would have been so top notch. Now, these are not necessarily shifty shimmer shades, but they are very elegant. They are very sophisticated. They are buttery smooth. They glide onto your lids with ease. And I just love the formula. And honestly, moving on from this point forward, they're just such minor things. And all of these palettes are so spectacular. It was so difficult for me to rank these. So let's move on to the next spot. So number 10 goes to Glamlight, and this is their Garfield eyeshadow palette. I remember saying that I was not interested in this eyeshadow palette, although I love Garfield. When I did see a couple of reviews on this palette, I kind of changed my mind. And I thought this is going to be such an amazing palette for the summertime. I really want to try this one out, and I recently only picked this one up and I played around with it, and oh my gosh, the quality of this palette is so amazing. So let's have a look inside at this fun color story. So this comes with 12 shades in total. 7 of them are matte shades and 5 are beautiful shimmer shades, and also some are duochromes. Some have a beautiful shift to them as well. This is such a cute warm tone, sort of toasty, neutral palette that meets some beautiful berry shades and also a pop of steel blue. Now, the only thing that I can say that I could critique about this palette a little bit would be the fact that this shade right here and this shade on my eyes, and maybe you're also going to see this in my swatches, they kind of look a little bit too similar, if you ask me. I wish those could have been a little bit different, although you can definitely tell that this one has a little bit of a pinker undertone and this one pulls a little bit more orangey. I think when you put them on your eye, there was barely a difference. I wish this could have been maybe something else, something just a little bit different, but very, very minor critique because the formula, stunning. Stunning. It's such a good quality eyeshadow palette. The only thing that let me down a little bit in terms of the mattes is this one. This blue, I wish this could have been, for once I'm saying that, because usually I do love my steel blues. This is a steel blue. I wish this could have been a little bit more of a brighter sort of pop-in blue. That would have been so much more fun to combine it with this like more orangey sort of yellow shade. That would have made a little bit more of like a fun look. This pulls a little bit too gray on me. And I don't think that's what we want in this palette. But overall, I think it's beautiful. I had such a good time playing with this, and I love this shade right here. This shade right here and this shade, and the looks I've created, I was so happy with them. And I think this is perfect for the summertime. And also, I love Garfield. Oh my god, it's like my childhood. Such retro vibes. I mean, such flashbacks. So let's move on to number 9 in the ranking. And number 9 is gonna go to ColourPop Cosmetics. And this is the Beauty and the Beast eyeshadow palette. This is also a major flashback to my childhood. Beauty and the Beast. I actually did not really love that movie like 100% as a kid. I was always an Alice in Wonderland girl. But you know, I kind of think it's a good Disney classic. And when I saw this color story at first, I was not sure if I would want to pick this one up. But then I thought, you know, again, this could be such a fun sort of neutral palette for the summertime. This formula was great. I was really happy. And I also really did enjoy this color story. So let's have a look inside. So this palette comes with 12 shades in total. 4 of them are matte shades, 2 of them are matte sparklers, so these sequin finishes. 5 of them are shimmer shades, and there is also 1 gel glitter shade. Now the color story here is so beautiful. I think they did an amazing job capturing Beauty and the Beast. This is really summing up the colors that were used in the Disney film so well. The color story here is just my favorite one out of all of these more like summery, neutral, nude palettes. And listen, even this gel glittery shade right here, I really did enjoy this one this time. I think this wasn't as sharp and as like noticeable on my eyelids as the ones that were included in the Twilight eyeshadow palette. However, I did not like this shade. This was the only shade that did not work 100% for me, and that was such a disappointment because I wish this could have been like a vibrant sort of like yellow shade instead of this matte sparkling thing. I felt like this had zero pigmentation. This barely did show up on my eyes, and I hope that ColourPop can just get rid of these shades. And if they are doing a glittery sort of gel type of formula shade, make it this type of formula, okay? But they are so inconsistent with those gel sort of glitters that it's really hit or miss. I was really surprised because I did not think I would love it as much as I actually ended up loving it, and I can see myself reaching for this constantly, especially during the summertime. Because although I'm not the biggest fan of gold, I love it during the summer. For some reason, gold is my thing during the summer, but also it has to be a very specific undertone of gold. And this shade, this like green sort of pale, almost like a cool toned gold, I love it. I'm glad to have it. So yeah, that's why I did rank this one a little bit higher up. So number 8 is gonna go to the Earthwood eyeshadow palette by Odin's Eye in collaboration with The Fancy Face. So this is the last one out of the Odin's Eye collection that was released in spring with the content creators. This is Tina's eyeshadow palette, and I feel like this one was my favorite one out of the 3. And also, I feel like this is one that I can see myself reaching for just the most. And I just really like this. This is so pretty. And I did create some beautiful looks with this. So let's have a look inside. Again, we have 12 shades in total. 7 out of them are matte shades. And we have 5 shimmer shades. This color story just reminds me of the springtime, like a grungy spring. We have some lilacs, we have some neutral brown shades, we also have some foresty green shades. I think this is just such a beautiful color story. And I feel like with this color story, you can do so many different looks. You can go so many different directions. And the shade Beauty is incredible. This is such a beautiful shade. This is like this lime green chartreuse that flips to sort of like almost like a corally orange with like some yellow in here. It's just so incredible. And I really don't have many negative things to say about this palette. Maybe the only shade that I don't love 100% is this shade right here. It's a little bit of a deeper shimmer. Again, I don't love deep shimmers that much. Maybe just to put them on the outer corner just a little bit, but in general, I just prefer mid-tone to like light or iridescent sort of shimmer shades. Those are my favorite types of shimmers. But yeah, this is just overall so pretty. This is just such a versatile palette overall, and I really, really love it. That's why I did rank this one a little bit higher up. I'm just such a fan. I really like it. So let's move on to number 7 in the ranking. And number 7 in the ranking is gonna go to the Beauty Bay Smoky Eyeshadow Palette. So this was released during the springtime, and I kind of feel like it was maybe the wrong time to release this palette. This would have been perfect for like the holidays, for like New Year's Eve. But you guys know I do adore my smoky, cool tones. Oh my gosh, when I saw this, I could not resist. This is a big palette, you guys. It's large, it's massive, okay? But my gosh, this is a dream come true. I really do love the Beauty Bay formula, and I think they have exceeded their standards with this palette. The quality of this is amazing. This is so good. If you do like grace, and I love my grace, okay? This is everything you ever wanted. It's gigantic, so let's open it up. So this palette comes with 42 shades, 25 mattes, and 17 shimmers. So what I love about this palette is the fact that this goes from very light to very smoky, very deep. You have different undertones within these gray shades. Now, however, all of these are going to be very, very cool tone. There is a difference when you put them on your lids. You can definitely see the difference in undertone. So you have a little bit of a purple undertone, you definitely have a little bit more of a blue undertone, and you also have a little bit of taupey, a little bit of brown undertones in here, and then you have your standard beautiful gray shades. The shimmer shades also have a great ratio from going very light to a little bit deeper, and a lot of midtones here, a lot of variation when it comes to the undertones. Honestly, this is such a go-to palette for me. Now, will I always every day use this palette? Most likely not, but during the winter time, oh my gosh, this is a dream come true. It definitely is. It is so beautiful, you guys. This is exactly what I love. Like, I love these tones, I love these shades, I love a good gray, cool toned eyeshadow look, and I've created some stunning, stunning, stunning looks with this. And I really tried hard to use different undertones. So I definitely created a look with the brown, the taupey undertones. I did create a look with the blue undertones, and I did try to create a look with some of these more like washed out purple undertones. And I do have some of these mega palettes by Beauty Bay, and I think thus far this is their best quality. Like, they have exceeded themselves. The mattes blend out beautiful. They are not patchy. The shimmers are so smooth. Now, the shimmers don't have some crazy multi-chromes to them or some duochromes, but they are very sophisticated. They are very sparkly. They are buttery to the touch. They apply amazingly. And I was just so pleasantly surprised by this. I love it. This is like a dream, especially for the winter. Okay, so let's move on to number 6 in the ranking, and number 6 goes to Adapt Cosmetics, and this is the Flying Fiddles eyeshadow palette. I feel like Adapt Cosmetics is on steroids right now because they've been releasing one palette after the next. I can barely keep up. I've got like 3 more eyeshadow palettes by them to review, only from this year. Now, this one was the one that I wanted to try out first. This is the Flying Fiddles one. Look at the packaging. Oh my gosh, this lace packaging. Really think this is such a beautiful palette just to look at it from the outside, but wait until you see the inside here. So this palette comes with 15 shades in total, 4 matte shades, 4 multi-chromes, 4 duochromes, and 6 shimmer shades. When I saw this, I was immediately drawn to this palette. I think this is such a beautiful, 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 beautiful color story. I love the shimmer formula. The shimmer formula is spectacular. It is so good, buttery smooth, like just so sophisticated. And this is one of those palettes that does not have like a bunch of crazy shifty shades. It definitely has some of those, but it's not over the top. This really gives me a little bit of fall vibes, but this was released, I think, early spring, and it's just so annoying at this point. I don't like these mattes. I don't like working with them. This shade right here, Green Cali, first off, I don't understand why it's called green. It's blue. And it's really a bad shade. This is not a great shade. Honestly, I feel like these mattes are kind of like an afterthought, formula-wise. Okay, not color-wise, but formula-wise. They're not great. This was also a little bit more patchy. I did enjoy this shade though. Otherwise, I would have ranked this much higher. I really hope Adapt is gonna get their matte game together, but I will say, shimmer-wise, beautiful. This shade in particular, Blue Crown, you can get me with a shade like that. This was so beautiful on my lids. I really do love all of these. I also love this shade. Again, this more like lime green, golden, sort of iridescent, like pop-in shade. Very, very pretty, but I could not rank this one higher up just due to the fact that I don't like these mattes. But let's actually move on to my top 5. So number 5 is gonna go to the Aurora Lights eyeshadow palette by Simply Posh Cosmetics. They have one of the best matte formulas out there. This is such an amazing brand, and I actually did ask them if they could give me a discount code. So I do have a discount code with them if you would like to shop anything by Simply Posh. They also recently have come out with a brand new palette called Coastal. Stunning, cannot wait to actually review it. I also just want to say that my discount code as of right now is not affiliated, so I don't earn a commission from it. But nonetheless, I'm just happy to get a discount code for you guys. So yeah, this palette, I love it. I really do like this. Very, very pretty. Maybe not my all-time favorite one in terms of color story, but it's just so good. The quality is so, 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 so good. So let's actually open this one up. So this palette comes with 18 shades in total, 12 mattes and 6 duochrome shimmers. This is really inspired by the Northern Lights. So we have these beautiful sort of like night sky electric vibe kind of like shades. I really think this is a well curated palette. Some of these undertones in this palette are just so amazing. Some of them are very, very unique. These are so good if you are a beginner in makeup and you want mattes that are vibrant, pigmented, but that are so easy to blend out. These blend out like butter. This shade Aurora, stop it. This shade, what was it called? Twinklin. This is such a unique shade to my collection. This has like a lime green base to it, and then it has this beautiful lilac, pinky, blue sparkle. It's just incredible on the eyes. I did such a fun look with this. I wish that the upper row would lean, maybe a couple of these shades could lean a little bit brighter. I feel like they pull a little bit too mid-toned when they go onto your eye, and you don't really have a very bright light matte shade, so that could be something that they could improve just a little bit. Otherwise, I really love it. Definitely worthy of my top 5 spot. So let's move on to my number 4 spot. And this one is also by Beauty Bay, and this is the Reckless Romance eyeshadow palette. So this was also a limited edition by Beauty Bay. I don't think you can get this palette anymore. This was a limited edition for Valentine's Day this year. But oh my gosh, do I love this. Reckless Romance, man, this really took me by surprise. This is exactly the type of color story that I love, so let's have a look inside. So this has 20 shades in total, 12 of them are matte shades and 8 of them are shimmer shades. Now there are no shifty multi-chrome, duochrome shades, but these shimmer shades are so elegant, so sparkly, so beautiful on the lids. This is a palette that I had so much fun with. Especially this shade right here. This shade in combination with these beautiful, these saturated mauvey tones, I think this is absolutely amazing. I love the ratio going from very light to very deep. I love everything in between. These mattes, they blended out so well. They had such great pigmentation. And I honestly think this is one of the best eyeshadow palettes that I've ever tried out by Beauty Bay. I really love it. And I love my grays and my purples and just these desaturated mauvey tones. I really think this is a good palette to have in my collection because I'm going to get some use out of this and I really, really love it. But all right, you guys, are you guys ready for my top 3 palettes of 2024 thus far? One is prettier than the other. Like, they're all so amazing. So let's start off with number 3. So number 3 goes to Unearthly Cosmetics, and this is the Dreamer eyeshadow palette. So this palette was actually part of an entire collection, the Dreamer collection, and I do have a long format video on this collection where I do try on everything, I swatch everything, I do create multiple looks with this eyeshadow palette, and I've got to say, this is so beautiful. This might be one of my all-time favorite eyeshadow palettes by the brand, and I love Unearthly Cosmetics. Like, they are one of my all-time favorite brands for sure. Just look at that packaging though. That packaging, stunning. So let's have a look inside at this beautiful dreamy color story. So this palette comes with 12 shades and we have an equal ratio of 6 matte shades and also 6 insanely beautiful shimmer shades. One of those shades also has a little bit of a holographic reflect to it. Some of these shimmer shades are definitely shifty and others are just, you know, beautiful shimmers, sparkly shimmers. Amazing formula. This color story again is everything that I love. All of the looks that I've created with this palette came out so beautiful. You can definitely, you know, do something a little bit darker, a little bit more smoky, or you can do something a little bit more rosy, a little bit more mauvey. The formula, amazing. I love these mattes. These mattes, although they are not over the top pigmented, they can be built up and I feel like they look so diffused. When you blend these out, they look very much diffused and very soft. I don't know, it's just amazing, amazing quality. I've been thoroughly enjoying this. Such a favorite by the brand too, and well done, well done. So let's move on to my number 2. And my number 2 is gonna go to Luna Beauty, and this is the Moonshroom eyeshadow palette. So I do have a couple of palettes by Luna Beauty, and when I saw this palette, I did not think that I would love it as much as I actually do. I really, really, really enjoy this palette, and you might be surprised because this really is not a cool toned eyeshadow palette whatsoever. So first off, let me actually show you this palette. Look at that packaging. I really love the artwork on this too. But what's inside, I do love that even more. This color story is incredible. So this comes with 18 shades in total. 12 of them are mattes, and we also have 6 shimmer shades. So color story wise, we do have a lot of yellow tones. We have a lot of these brown tones that do lean a little bit more toasty, but then we also have these maroon browns. We have a little bit more of a purple brown, a little bit of a periwinkle shade as a pop, and the shimmer shades are so fantastic. I love yellow. And this is just something that makes me happy, that gets my creative juices flowing. And although the shimmer shades might not be like the most exciting shades, I just feel like on my lids, they still look so nice. They still look very, very reflective. My favorite shade is this one, this Magic Mushroom shade. This is so unique to my collection. I also feel like that this shade right here is one of the prettiest purple shades I have in my entire collection. It's so beautiful. Great formula. These mattes, blendable, buildable, beautiful. Had no issue whatsoever. And this shimmer formula, although it's a little bit thinner, it's really not chunky whatsoever. It looks so elegant on the lids. It's so like light reflective. And I've just been thoroughly enjoying this palette. Although I will say I don't really love this shimmer. It's a little bit too dark for me. And we could have had like something else than these 2 golden shades, okay? But otherwise, I just think this is so well done. It definitely does give me some fairy magic combined with some earthy tones. I really came to love this palette. My number 1 It is one of the prettiest palettes I own, and I wanted this for the longest time ever. And maybe you know what's gonna come. Maybe you know. Oh, this is so stunning. I immediately knew that this would be my number one when I tried this out the very first time. So my number one is gonna go to Ansley Rain Cosmetics, and this is the Cold Moon eyeshadow palette. It is very pricey. That's the only downside to this palette, but nonetheless, I think like it's worth it. It's so incredible. Like these shades, the quality of this palette, the color story, everything is so, so, so spectacular. I'm not the biggest fan of the fact that this was not created by an artist, but that Ansley Rain is actually using AI to create this. I would wish for them to change that in the future, of course. Nonetheless, this is still beautiful. Again, we have a little bit of like mushrooms with a moon and with some fairy vibes. Like, what is going on? I'm just real. Wait, what? That is so bizarre. That is really bizarre. I think this was on the market earlier, though, than this one. So, well, I don't know. I'm not really ranking these palettes according to their packaging. Nonetheless, this is maybe one of the most beautiful palettes that I have in my entire massive eyeshadow palette collection. And when I saw this being sneak peeked at the end of 2023, I wanted to have this for the longest time. And it was immediately sold out, and I just had to wait, and I had to wait until I snatched this a while ago, a couple of weeks ago. So let's have a look inside at this insanely beautiful color story. So this palette comes with 21 shades in total, 10 matte shades, and 11 beautiful shimmer shades. Some of them, most of them actually, are multi-chromes or duochromes. Some of them also have some holographic reflects to them, and 3 are some beautiful, sparkly, smooth shimmer shades without any like flip or like shift to them. This color story is everything I love. Cool tones, muted mauves, taupes, browns, grays, some like different undertones within the mattes, and then these multichromes are out of this world stunning. And the looks that I've created with this palette and with these mattes are so silky, so buttery. They just blend out so well. They are actually more buildable and they diffuse. Like these will blend. They are not patchy, none of that. If anything, this matte formula is a little bit more on the blendable side. The blend is very, very soft on these. And I think this formula is so good. And this is most definitely not my first palette by Ansley Rain. I do have some older palettes by Ansley Rain, and I also have the Lance of Enchantment palette. And I recently did pick up their Groovy Garden eyeshadow palette. So that is gonna come up next on my channel. I am actually wearing this palette right now on my eyes, and I challenged myself to not use one of the special shades. I actually did use this beautiful sparkly shimmer shade here in combination with this, and I also topped it off a little bit with this more bluish silver shade. The very first time that I tried this palette, I did use this shade right here, which is called Kion something. This is such a beautiful multi-chrome. This has so many shifts to it. And then also these chunkier sort of shades right here. They are a little bit chunkier, so I would suggest to just, smoothen them out in between your fingers before you put them on. Nonetheless, these are creamy and so like, they just spread out so beautifully on your lids. They are very long lasting. They don't necessarily crease, although they are a little bit on the creamier side. The quality of this palette is just everything. And honestly, I'm kind of excited to see if there is going to be a palette released this year that can top this. Because this is my favorite palette thus far, and I think this is so, so good. But yeah, you guys, that was my ranking. All of the eyeshadow palettes that I've tried out thus far in 2024. Again, there is a massive pile of new palettes waiting right here just to be used and reviewed, and I just want to play with them, create looks with them. So just keep an eye out on my channel. Let me know, are you agreeing with my ranking? Did you try out any of the palettes that I featured in today's video? Do drop me a comment down below. I'm always looking forward reading them. If you did enjoy the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Also subscribe to my channel and don't forget to ring the bell in order to get notified about my upcoming videos. And until next time, please do take care. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.